So the 25th anniversary of Persona is well underway. And if you're talking about 25 years from the original release of Persona, well, obviously we have to talk about the first game. How can you have a celebration without doing a re-release of the original Persona? My opinion, you can't. So that's what we're talking about today. Persona originally titled Persona Revelations because back then the Persona series, or Shin Megami Tensei series, I should say, went under the name Revelations for God knows what reason. When it released originally on the PS1, it was a title nobody really heard about. I honestly didn't play any of the Persona games until Persona 3. Persona 3 was my first entry into the Persona series, which was on the PS2. And since then, I've played all of them. I haven't beaten all of them, but I've played them. Now, with that in mind, Persona 1 is one of those games that even after getting a remake and re-release on the PSP, it still kind of went under the radar. And I don't blame people for not playing Persona, the original Persona. Same thing with Persona 2, which we'll talk about in another video. But Persona 1 and to an extent Persona 2 are drastically different from the Personas that many of you know. The gameplay is completely different from Persona 3, 4, and 5. The tones of the game are completely different from 3, 4, and 5. Basically, everything about it is just different. The only similarities are the fact that they're high school kids. There's demons, whether you want to call them shadows or demons or personas or whatever. And that they are dungeon crawlers. But outside of that, Persona 1, it's more of a Shin Megami Tensei game than it is a Persona game these days. And I have to specify that because Persona, like I said, Persona that you all know, that everybody knows and everybody's familiar with, especially with the popularity of Persona 4 and 5, it's not what Persona used to be. There was no social links. There were no timed events. Nothing like that. It played more along the lines of a traditional RPG, which is what the Shin Megami Tensei series is. If you guys haven't played Shin Megami Tensei, any of them, it doesn't matter which one, but if you haven't played any of them, you really should, and you'd understand what I'm talking about. Recently, we had Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne get a remaster, an HD remaster, and release on modern consoles, and that was received very well, and it sold decently well, especially for a Shin Megami Tensei game. So, my thing is, the last time that we had Persona 1, the original, was on PSP, and it was a very, very good remake and a very good port. It fixed a lot of the issues that the original Persona had, because they had some weird censorship issues with the original Persona, and so the remake on PSP fixed a lot of those censorship issues, but we don't have any modern ports for Persona. Like, you can't play it on Steam, you can't play it on a PS4 or PS5 or an Xbox One or Series S or X. Like, there's no way to play that game unless you have a PSP or you're gonna emulate it. And I mean, if I'm gonna be honest with you, go ahead and emulate it if you can, because these games are expensive. We're talking about, for not the collector's edition, we're talking about just the PSP game itself. You're looking at close to $100 to $150 for the PSP game. So because it's that expensive, and because a lot of people haven't played it, and because we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the original Persona, we really need to see the announcement happen for a port of Persona 1, and maybe a collection that, you know, Persona 1 and 2. Although, again, we'll talk about 2 in a different video because that's a whole nother subject. But outside of a full-on remake, which honestly I don't think we need, I just want to see an HD remaster of Persona 1. You know, and release it on modern consoles, whatever. I'll buy a physical version of that any day. any day. I mean, I went out of my way to buy a physical version of Nocturne, and I have Nocturne on the PS2. But, you know, outside of a full-on remake, I just want to see an HD remastered port so we can play this on the Nintendo Switch. This would be a perfect game to play on the Nintendo Switch. But again, we're talking about a game that, or a series that Sony has their grip on. Outside of the side games, Sony basically has the exclusivity rights to the mainline series. And so Persona 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the extended versions of those games, Persona 3 FES, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royal, all of them, they have to run by Sony first because Sony has the exclusivity rights to it. Yes, Persona 4 Golden did get a PC release, and that gives me hope that we could see a PC release for Persona 1, Persona 2, Persona 3, and I would love to see that happen. But we're going to talk about those other games in a different video because that we need to discuss more stuff regarding those games. But as of right now, Persona 1 needs to have a port for PC, Switch. If they don't want to put it on the Xbox, fine, but I mean, at least the Switch. You know, like give us a port on the PS4, PS5. You know, even if you're gonna do just a digital release, that's fine. Just give it to us. But you know, at least give us a physical release for the Switch, just so I can have it for my collection. But it's one of these titles that people need to play because it's part of Persona's history, and they are very, very good games. Yes, there are, you know, cheesy dialogue and things like that, and that's just what happens with these old PS1 era games. But that's part of the charm for the game. You can't go and tell me that, like, you know, Resident Evil 1 is not a good game because of cheesy dialogue. You know, like, that doesn't... It's gonna have cheesy dialogue, and I'm okay with that. But the gameplay itself, at its core, for Persona 1, is still very solid. It's drastically different. Like, it's night and day between how it plays versus the new games, and I know I've said that, but I want to reiterate that over and over. It's like, think about it this way: you have Final Fantasy VII on the PS1, like the original Final Fantasy VII, and then you have Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they are completely different the way that they play, but they're still Final Fantasy games. You know, like, it's just one of the things that I feel like people have missed out on these games because Persona didn't get popular until Persona 4. Hell, even Persona 3 being my favorite Persona, I have to admit that Persona 3 was overlooked at the time, and it didn't start becoming popular until Persona 4 hit the shelves, and Persona 4 did so well that you had Persona 4 Arena and Arena Ultimax. You had the animation, and then, you know, then people started becoming interested in Persona 3, but by that time it was already too late. Yeah, you could still buy Persona 3 FES pretty cheap these days still on PS2, and I highly recommend you do it. But it wasn't until Persona 4 that the popularity started to actually rise among the gaming community. And so many people did not play Persona 1, even the PSP version. So with that, I'll leave you guys there. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Should we see a remaster, an HD remaster port of Persona 1 on Steam, on PlayStation, on basically all the consoles? Should we see that? I think we should. Let me know down in the comment section. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you guys in the next video. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. Peace out, guys.